As the younger generations go, so goes America. That's the topic of today's Bold and Blunt, and I'm your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. Have you been watching with some level of concern the polls and surveys that have come out in recent weeks, in recent months, even in recent years, showing that the younger generations in America are A, turning more and more secular, and B, turning away more and more from the principles that make America great? I am, because as the younger generations go, so goes America. If we do not teach our younger generations to love and cherish America, and to respect the principles of freedom that make America great, then what can we expect for America 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now? Just look at what's happening under Joe Biden and multiply that by 100. And that's a nation of darkness, gloom, and doom. And before I get into all that, I want to quickly mention, if you like Bold and Blunt, you may get Bold and Blunt at edify.app. That is the online platform for your faith-based podcast. You may also get Bold and Blunt at washingtontimes.com. Just subscribe to my newsletter there. Please do. Check it out. Go to the bottom of washingtontimes.com, find the newsletter section, click on my name, and sign up for my Monday, Wednesday, Friday newsletter, which contains my commentaries as well as my twice weekly Bold and Blunt podcast. It will be delivered right to your email box. It can't be easier than that. And guess what? Within that newsletter, you get all the talking points you need to fight those far leftist loons that you know you have them in your family, right? You can't avoid them. It's barbecue season coming up. You know they're going to come to your house sooner or later. Wouldn't you like to have point A, point B, point C in order to fight off their socialist junk that they're going to bring to the party? Wouldn't it be great to shut them down and to do so in a polite manner? Well, my Bold and Blunt newsletter as well as my podcast will help you do that. Listen to this. June 17th, 2022, Gallup. Belief in God in U.S. dips to 81%, a new low. Consider that in light of this second headline from Newsweek, July 2021, why millennials and Gen Z aren't proud to be American. Why indeed? This piece opens, are you proud to be American? It's a seemingly simple question, but also a loaded one. Well, guess what? It's not that loaded. It really isn't. It used to not be that loaded anyhow. Used to be if you lived in America, if you were born in America, if you were raised in America, then you were proud to be an American. That was the patriotic thing to do. Now, as Newsweek points out, it is a loaded question. Polling shows, Newsweek goes on to say, there's a patriotism gap between older and younger Americans. Generation Z and millennials are less likely to say yes to the question of national pride than those born in the decades preceding them. By the numbers, let's take a look. 67% of 1,424 U.S. adults in polling said they were extremely or very proud to be an American when asked between June 30th and July 2nd of that year, 2021. Okay, so it's the build-up to the 4th of July, Independence Day. But, here we go, Newsweek writes, among those aged 18 to 24, just 36% said the same, with 35% in that age bracket stating they were only slightly or not at all proud to be an American. Well, the pattern continues if you go to another segment of time, June 25th and 28th. 69% of adults said they were proud to be an American. But you look at the age breakdown, and it was mostly Gen Xers and baby boomers who said they were proud to be an American during that second segment of time, June 25th and 28th. Among millennials, Newsweek wrote, just 52% said the same, that they were proud to be American. Of those in Gen Z, 58% were proud to be American. It's a majority, but it's a far lower majority than Gen Xers, and baby boomers, which suggests the trend in America on the question of, are you proud to be American, is dipping. It's on a downward slide. Now look at the trend in Americans' belief in God. Talk about downward slides. Here we go again. The vast majority of U.S. adults, Gallup wrote in 2022, believe in God. But the 81% who do believe in God, is down by 6 percentage points from 2017. And what's more than that? It's the lowest in Gallup's polling of this particular trend. Between 1944 and 2011, Gallup found that more than 90% of Americans believed in God. Now, fast forward to May 2nd through 22nd, when Gallup conducted this values and beliefs poll. In 2022, we're talking, 17% of Americans say they don't believe in God. So, when you consider these two factors, the loss of love for America and the loss of belief in God, they seem maybe they're not related at all. One's about God, one's about country. Well, guess what? In America, those two are tied. You can't separate, because American exceptionalism is based on the idea of God-given liberties. And you can't have God-given liberties if you remove God from that equation. So if you're looking at what's taking place with the younger generations, it's distressing to note, first off, they're losing their love for America. They don't see America as the greatest country in the world, as better than any other nation in the world. And they're losing their love for and belief in God. And the two do go hand in hand. As one goes, the other goes. So if we had a nation of church-going younger generations, then chances are these church-going believers in God would recognize the God-given liberties of America and understand that it's this God-given liberty that makes America the best country in the world. Voila! Patriotism, love for America. But we're on a downward trend with both those factors that's leading America down a path of big government, bigger government, biggest government, because we lose sight of the fact that America is the best country. We allow politicians with selfish ambitions to tell us what America is, to define America for us, to actually redefine America away from the guiding principles of greatness, and lead us down a path of socialism, of collectivism, of Marxism, which that's where we're headed now. To do a Joe Biden. Let me put on my Joe Biden hat for a second. Wake up, America. Of course, that's a reference to Joe Biden's infamous way of whispering, leaning forward into the microphone and whispering when he wants to show that he means business, or when he wants to show that he's telling the truth. Well, there's my Joe Biden hat. Wake up, America. Not only do we need to make sure the younger generations are taught the truthful histories of America, the truthful civics of America, the truth about socialism and communism versus capitalism and free markets. Not only do we need to make sure the younger generations are schooled properly, but we also, for the longer term, for the ability to keep America free into the far future, we need to make sure the younger generation is trained in the biblical ways to go, is trained in the greatness of God, is taught that there is a God, there is a higher accountability, there is an afterlife, because as Founding Fathers warned, you can't have a limited government if the people in that society of limited government aren't moral and virtuous, because immorality breeds big government overreach. Immorality breeds chaos, and chaos means somebody has to come in and fix the chaos. And oh, look, who's going to come in and fix the chaos but your handy-dandy Democrat Party that has big eyes, big designs to seize individual liberties and control humanity anyhow. if we go down this path of secularism and atheism, and if we continue to go down this path of anti-Americanism, it's not going to be long before the Democrats reach their ultimate vision and dream of controlling the entire population of the United States and then throwing in big with the globalists at the World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, United Nations, and so forth. Our freedoms do really depend on the proper education of the younger generations. And that doesn't just mean civics in school. It also means God and godly principles in church. So how do you do it? How do you do it in this very immoral, culturally degraded society? Well, thankfully, there are some sources out there that offer proper education tools for the younger generations, one of which is called the Tuttle Twins series. It's a series of books aimed at teaching the younger generations, the very young kids who right now are facing drag queen shows in their local libraries and in their local bars that their lunatic parents drag them to for some reason. It teaches them the core concepts of American exceptionalism. And my guest today has taken the Tuttle Twins series, the written series, the books, and turned them into a series of cartoons. His name? Daniel Harmon, and he's here on Bold and Blunt to talk about the Tuttle Twins, the Tuttle Twins series, the Tuttle Twins cartoons, and how you, as a concerned parent or a concerned American patriot, can access these great products to lead the younger generation in the way they should go. Daniel, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. It is great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So, as I understand it, you head up the TV production part of the written series Tuttle Twins. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you guys are coming out with your second season. Some of the things that you focus on deal with capitalism and Bitcoin and so forth. And I find it interesting that you are bringing these very adult themes to a child audience. How do you find children understand the themes that you teach?
Well, they seem to resonate with it really well because we're able to distill the concepts and the principles down into their simplest form. And in some ways, a lot of their parents are saying they're understanding these things for the first time, like inflation and like free markets and rights to life, liberty, property. For the first time, they're understanding in a way that they can have critical thinking conversations with their kids about them. And it really boils down to focusing in on a singular principle during each episode so that you aren't trying to take on too much at once, and kids can kind of follow that story a lot better.
So months ago, I interviewed Connor on Bold and Blunt, and we talked about how he got involved with the writing of the Tuttle Twins. But I'm curious, what's your background, what's your experience, and how did you get involved in the cartoon series?
Connor and I have been friends for a long time. When he published the first Tuttle Twins book, it, for me, was exactly what I was looking for. I have 7 kids. I was looking
Wow.
for really good resources to teach them about these principles that basically don't really exist anymore in schools and in culture very much. And so I bought his first book, and I bought every one he published since. Once the books had enough momentum that he started sort of kicking around the idea of turning it into a series, a TV series, my team and I reached out to him and said, hey, we want to do that. So my background is in advertising, specifically in live-action filmmaking and video. And I do have a little bit of animation background as well, but basically where Connor and I were friends and had worked on different projects in the past together, we were able to sit down and sort of have a vision for what the Tuttle Twins brand could be, and he was very bought into all that. And yeah, now we're just charging straight into season 2.
How does animation work nowadays? Because for some reason I'm recalling something years and years ago that I learned when cartoons were first invented. You had to actually physically by hand draw each and every movement and morphing of the character, and it was a very time-consuming process. But I'm guessing with computers now and technology, that process is sped up. Can you kind of walk me through the steps of how you go from a concept to actual cartoon that kids watch on the screen?
Yeah, you bet. So it all starts with really good writing, and you have to make sure that that's in a good spot. But then from there, you have to do storyboards. So those are sort of the key poses and the different actions playing out, but in just a rough storyboard form. We edit those into what's called an animatic, and that's just a bunch of storyboards that, put together with sound and with music and with temporary voices, and that kind of makes up the show for the animators to follow. But where the efficiencies have come in over the years is rather than having to animate each individual frame like you mentioned, now we can design a character and we can rig it, is what's called rigging, which is you basically make it into a puppet that you can run inside the computer.
Oh.
And so you can make the mouth open, you can make the mouth closed, you can make the eyes open, you can make it closed, you can make it smile, you can make it frown. And all these things you can do with the puppet to play out each individual scene. And there still are times when you're doing something really crazy with the character where the face stretches, or they throw a ball in a certain way, and then you still have to do things frame by frame. But in the same way, in 3D computer animated animation, that you build out a puppet, and that's kind of the basis of the animation. The same thing happens in 2D animation, which is this show, where it all starts from puppets that are essentially you are using a little bit like a marionette, right, in order to play out the different actions.
How you just described that storyboard process, that must be very difficult and a huge challenge for the creatives who are part of that, because you're in essence starting from thin air, and then you're trying to bring something to life to basically show other people how to bring it to final product. What is that like? How many people do you have on your creative team that do the storyboard process?
So we might have anywhere from 4 to 6 storyboard artists on each episode. And then on our writing team, there's usually 4 of us that have written the script. But when we go in as directors and direct the storyboard artists, they're bringing their own ideas of how to make a scene funnier. Like, Derek, he's going to eat this. Derek is the raccoon in the series. He's going to eat this thing here. Okay, how can we make that funnier and make that more energetic? And storyboard artists are really good storytellers. And yes, you are starting from scratch, but the whole thing is if you've sort of roughed it out in the storyboards so that it can make sense when you watch it, even though it's not completed animation, then you'll have good animation in the end. If you have a good storyboard or a good animatic, as they put it, that's the collection of storyboards together, edited together, then you're going to have a good show. And we find that the storyboards themselves actually hold kids' attention span really well. We actually test those storyboards and animatics in front of kids.
Oh, wow.
And they're able to follow along really well and see how they're responding to the content, see what's confusing them, see what jokes are working, which ones aren't. And it's very informative for us as creators to get feedback quickly in that form rather than waiting till it's all done and it's animated and then it's too late to kind of change course.
Right. It's like the outline for what's to follow.
It is very much so, yes.
So about how many storyboards would you use for, say, a 20-minute cartoon?
Oh, gosh, I forget the number, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think, about 2,000.
Whoa!
words.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something like 200. Really?
No, yeah, it can easily cross over a couple thousand. I don't know the average, but it's well over 1,000. That's a 22-minute episode because essentially,
wow,
when you're doing 24 frames a second of finished final frames, you're talking over 30,000 frames in that case. And so it's, essentially one for every storyboard you create, it's at least a storyboard per second is what I would say, at least, as you go through.
Oh, fascinating. So how long does it take from conception to screen? How long does it take to produce one 20, 30-minute cartoon?
It's about 7 to 8 months. By the time we start the writing process, go through several rounds of feedback on that, then go over to the storyboarding process, and it's months there, and then finally doing all the backgrounds and design to characters and the final animation. That takes us 7 to 8 months.
Wow, that is massive. And I imagine that you have dozens of people involved in the creative process.
Oh yeah, I mean, by the time we include all the animators, it's hundreds, and especially over the course of a season. And we have, a handful of members on our production team. We have a collection of 10 or so storyboard artists that we're drawing from, and we have some individual artists that are designing characters and backgrounds, and we've got our writers, and it takes up quite a bit of team because the animators, once they get involved, that's, like I said, that adds up quick.
That is amazing. What you describe, it sounds more labor intensive than just shooting a regular movie with just human actors and actresses.
So yes and no. There can be a lot of labor involved in movies now because of the amount of special effects work that's often done, and so that requires big teams. But if you don't have a special effects heavy movie, then yes, there are going to be a lot more people involved by the time you have all the animators doing the individual frames and puppeting of the characters. Like I mentioned before, it's very labor intensive, and that's where, ultimately that's where the money is going. It's mostly going into man hours in order to support this big of a production.
So tell me about some of the biggest challenges that you found taking the Tuttle Twins from print to animation. Some of the sticking points, some of the, I don't know, I imagine there have been some creative disagreements over what one character should do, and someone thought the character should do something else. Take me behind the scenes on some of those discussions.
Yeah, so some of the biggest challenges that we face are narrowing the subject down to the singular principle we want kids to come away with from each individual episode. So Connor Boyack, the author of the books, he's done a really good job of breaking down things, concepts like the golden rule and free markets and inflation and our rights. What are our rights versus what are our needs? He's done that really well in the books, and he's done it pretty thoroughly and expansively in each individual book. And the vision for the show has always been to take a little bit of a different approach in that the books are probably 90% education, 10% entertainment, and we're kind of the reverse. We're 90% entertainment and 10% education because we want kids to choose this as their entertainment over their options on Netflix, Disney Plus, YouTube, and the like.
Right.
That if they resonate with the characters and the stories, and they're just along for the fun ride, then those principles will really kind of get deep into their hearts and kind of stick with them. So we all know the original Spider-Man movie, with great power comes great responsibility, right? We all remember that slogan or that saying in there because of a really great story surrounding it. And essentially that's what we've done with the individual episodes, where we have little sayings, little takeaways, like in our inflation episode, inflation hurts a nation is sort of the takeaway. And on an episode where disagreeing with someone doesn't make them your enemy, we have disagree doesn't mean enemy. So it's fine, distilling it down to that singular message within each episode is some of the hardest stuff to do, because there's always so many things to touch on in each individual topic, especially when you're trying to teach kids about principles of freedom and economics. It's so expansive.
So season 2, a couple of the themes that season 2 of the Tuttle Twins just launched on Angel Studios app. A couple of the themes you cover are Bitcoin and subsidies. Tell me how you make that funny to kids, entertaining, but something that they can learn.
Yeah, so in this show, the Tuttle Twins have a grandma with a time-traveling wheelchair. It's also an interdimensional portal and spaceship, and it's a little bit of a go-go gadget machine, right? Where she can do all sorts of things with it. And so in the Bitcoin episode, she takes them into the internet to learn about the creation of a digital currency and why that could be beneficial to economies and to society. And so it's kind of a little bit of that sort of Ralph Breaks the Internet sort of vibe, I guess, to some degree. It's inspired by that, and that's kind of a fun adventure for kids to go on and see, like, the memes and stuff that are that are on the internet, and then when it comes to something like capitalism, we teach a little bit about how success is deserved when people are served. Meaning, just because you've got a really big company, and you got someone at the head of it that's become very rich, that doesn't make them a bad guy. In fact, if that many people are voluntarily giving them their money, it means they're serving a whole lot of people, right? And that we teach that by them going to a far off land where they've got these little characters called the Grumbledons, where they've got a major case of envy among them, and they're learning about these little creatures that have a sort of zero-sum mentality. If you succeed, it means I'm failing, right? And they are able to overcome some of those things. So that's how we go about this, is we use things like time travel and jumping to other dimensions, or even like little planets and things like that. It's very imaginative. It's kind of a sci-fi sort of an adventure that the kids go on to learn each of these individual lessons, in addition to going back and learning from people like George Washington, and about how that something like tribalism can be very dangerous. Meaning, if you are in support of a party but are not paying attention to truth and to principles and what that party stands for, then you can end up in just as bad of a place. George Washington was the only president of the United States that never belonged to a political party, right? So they go and learn from him. So that's kind of how we approach it.
Wow. Well, Daniel, you have this sort of magical job, and I really appreciate you going a little bit behind the scenes. I'm picturing now that the work you guys do to create these Tuttle Twins cartoon series, I'm picturing like a Willy Wonka type factory where everybody is just plugging away at all the creative developments and innovations for this, and it just sounds wonderful. You have a great job, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on Bold and Blunt to talk about it. Just quickly, how can people see these cartoons? How can people access this info, this series?
You bet. So if they download the Angel app, it's available free on both Apple and on the Google Play Store. That's where you'll find Tuttle Twins. Again, just download the Angel app. All the episodes are for free. All season 1's out. There's 12 episodes out there. And season 1 is now releasing an episode a month. We've got one coming up here next week, so we're excited about that.
Oh, excellent. Daniel Harmon with the TV series of Tuttle Twins. Thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. It was great to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
Gotta check out the Tuttle Twins. I'm sure you've heard of them. If you haven't, check them out online. Buy these books. Watch these cartoons. Support these efforts, because in America, as you are well aware, we have a problem in our culture where our younger generations are being fed rot, anti-American rot. And so anybody who goes out there and tries to produce content, whether visual, audio, cartoons, books, we need to support them if they're producing the type of content that is actually going to help keep American exceptionalism in place. Thank you for listening. I want to remind you, if you like Bold and Blunt, you can get Bold and Blunt at edify.app, at washingtontimes.com, and wherever other podcasts are offered. Tune in next time, and in the meanwhile, don't forget, stay blunt. Stay bold.